Discover 10 spine-chilling horror stories revealed from the shadows of sinister November nights. The air was thick with a bone-chilling whisper, an omen of dread creeping through Oak Ridge Hollow's serene facade. Starlight flickered like dying candles against the velvet sky, casting long shadows over the picturesque streets that had once felt like home. As Sarah settled in for their yearly storytelling tradition with her kids, the familiar warmth of their living room was tainted by the gnawing void left by her husband's absence. Tonight was supposed to ignite festive nostalgia, yet an escape from ordinary suburban life soon turned into nightmare material. "Read the scary one," Jake urged, eyes blazing with excitement, dragging them out of their somber gloom. But that thrill melted into unease when a louder clatter echoed from the backyard, causing Sarah to jump, heart racing. She peered out the window, breath quickening as an unsettling weight settled in her gut. The likable neighbors exchanged silent, conspiratorial glances, whispers lacing the cool night air, as if they shared secrets that had never made it to the surface. "Just the wind, right?" she murmured, reassuring herself. But a deep chill, deeper than any November's bite, crept in. There was something sour hiding in the sweetness of baked goods that wafted from the next-door neighbor's house. Weeks passed, each day uncoiling tension like a tightrope stretched above shadows. Emily discovered an abandoned attic diary, pages yellowed with time, belonging to a girl who vanished from Oak Ridge Hollow. Her frantic writings revealed the presence of a phantom figure stalking those who dared to speak their fears out loud. Terror squeezed at Sarah's heart. It felt too real, too close, and her fingers trembled as her thoughts swirled. What if the horrors were already upon them? "Mom, it was just a story." Emily dismissed her mother with an eye roll, dismissing those old-time fables. But Sarah couldn't shake the anxiety simmering within her. Dread twined around her as she saw midnight shadows lengthen. She hugged Jake and Emily tight, desperately trying to ward off the suffocating darkness. One night, a lean family friend stopped by, bringing cookies with a smile that felt too forced. "Have you heard the lore of Old Oak Ridge?" he said, his voice chillingly calm as he pulled at their deepest fears, his face morphing. But what left them paralyzed was the voice erupting from the night, echoes of their own screams rising from the depths of their souls, warning them. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference."
Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Their laughter turned to shouts as they huddled together. Sarah glanced outside, her pulse hammering. The darkness became a tangible presence. Her neighbor loomed at the end of the street, his grin unnaturally wide, beckoning her in with a crooked finger. The air thickened. This felt wrong. "Mom, what do we do?" Jake squeaked, looking at her, eyes wide with fear. "Run!" Sarah shouted. The world spun as she clutched her kids, plunging into panic. The ghost stories crept into reality, wrapping around them, threading through the very fabric of Oak Ridge Hollow. The darkness was alive now. It hungered. And that ghastly figure at the end of the street, it wouldn't remain a mere fable much longer. What awaited them beyond the threshold of safety became crystal clear. The real horror of the night had only just begun. The moment they bolted from the house, the night swallowed them whole. Wind howled like a banshee, charging through the night air, twisting branches into grotesque shapes that clawed at the moonlight. Sarah clutched her kids, their small bodies shaking against her as fear morphed into a living entity around them. They ran past the porch where their friend had lingered, his face now a haunting memory, part of something much darker. "Keep going! Don't look back!" she urged, her voice strained but firm. The streetlights flickered like dying fireflies, casting long shadows that seemed to crawl toward them. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground wanted to hold them against its dreadful heart. "Mom, what was that?" Emily gasped, glancing around. In the distance, the shadows twisted unnaturally, slipping into darker corners. Sarah's heart raced, pounding a wild tempo against her ribs as she felt a shift, a presence at their heels. She dared not turn. Just keep running," Sarah shouted, fueled by adrenaline and a primal instinct to protect. As they reached the corner store, the flickering neon sign was a promise of safety in a night spiraling into chaos. They skidded to a stop, breaths heavy. The store's door hung ajar, creaking as if inviting them into a world of false reassurance. Jake whimpered, "I want to go home." "Me too," Emily whispered, eyes darting, haunting echoes of that eerie laughter echoing in her ears. "Home's not safe right now." Sarah gripped their hands tighter. "We have to figure this out first." Suddenly, a thud echoed from inside the store.
Heavy footsteps that jarred Sarah's spine like an electric shock. The door creaked further open, revealing a flickering light and dark shapes shifting through the aisles. She had to swallow her fear. Her children depended on her. "Stay behind me." Her voice trembled, yet held a shard of unwavering resolve. They stepped inside, the familiar layout transformed into a twisted maze, shadows shifting like sinister spirits between shelves.
The bright overhead lights buzzed, glitching with an ominous rhythm. "Is anyone there?" Sarah called out, her voice breaking the silence. A cold breeze brushed past her, chilling her to the bone, as if the store itself exhaled fear. Tiny fridges that lined the walls, usually so full of life, now felt lifeless, ominous. "Mom, I'm scared." Jake's shaky voice pierced the heavy stillness. "Look," Emily whispered, pointing toward the back. Flickering images danced across the screen of an old TV, the same family friend's face, smiling wide, his grin stretching almost grotesquely as he told horrid tales. Her heart sank. How had they gotten there? Everything felt connected, and yet so chaotic. Just as she turned to shield her children from the sight, a loud crash erupted from behind them. The store's entrance swung shut with a sudden finality, trapping them. Panic lanced through Sarah's gut. "No!" she screamed, yanking the door, but it wouldn't budge, as if it had a mind of its own. The air thickened, drawing in a terrible energy, wrapping around her like a vice. As shadows clothed the corners, the static of the TV buzzed louder, drowning out their fears. "You should have listened. The stories never end," the voice taunted, echoing through the store as darkness thickened around them. The last remnants of light from the TV flickered before plunging into complete blackness, leaving Sarah, Jake, and Emily enveloped in fear. What truly lurked in the shadows, waiting to claim what was theirs, would soon reveal itself. "Mom, what are we gonna do?" Jake's voice trembled as panic seeped into every syllable. But Sarah had no answer, her heart racing, knowing they had become part of a nightmare far more sinister than any story they had heard. The shadows drew closer, whispering their names, and the night had only just begun to unfold its terror. What awaited them in that suffocating darkness? Would they be swallowed whole by the legends of Oak Ridge Hollow? As Sarah turned, dread froze her in place as she realized they were not as alone as they thought. The darkness around them pulsed as if it were alive. Shadows stretched and twisted, taking on shapes that lurked just at the edge of Sarah's vision. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it would burst. "Mom," Emily whispered, squeezing her brother's hand, their eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears. "What's happening? I can't see." "Shh, it's okay," Sarah whispered, though she was far from convinced. The hum of the fluorescent lights above sputtered, illuminating fleeting glimpses of aisles stacked high with groceries. Cans rattled softly, and items on shelves trembled, as if warning them of the impending doom. "We need to move," she urged. But where? The store was a maze, its familiar layout now mocking her, each aisle potentially leading to a dead end. An oppressive weight settled upon her, deepening her fear. Then, a faint rustling reached her ears, something skittering across the linoleum. Sarah flinched, turning to the sound as the shadows swirled closer, folding into one another. It felt like they were being watched. Unseen eyes bore down on them, hungry. "Mom!" Jake's voice quaked. "I feel cold." "Stay close!" she snapped, more sharply than she intended. But her resolve began to crack, doubt creeping in like the encroaching shadows. The stories she'd told them for years, innocent bedtime tales laced with laughter, twisted in her mind. They weren't just stories anymore, they were warnings. "Look!" Emily pointed, her voice barely above a whisper. At the end of the aisle loomed an old display, its edges coated in dust, advertising a relic from the past, a set of old VHS tapes, each labeled in crude lettering, classic horror, folk tales, and nightmares unleashed. The sight sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "We shouldn't," she hesitated, her instincts screaming that whatever hovered in this place hungered for them to engage. But the moment was fleeting, a fluttering sound pulled her attention away. A broken lock on the restroom door swung open, creaking ominously. Her heart nearly stopped. No one had entered or exited there. She could have sworn it had been completely still moments ago. "Mom, please, can we get out of here?" Jake's plea broke through her haze of fear. A soft, oddly melodic whisper beckoned from the restroom, chilling her to the bone. "Come play with us, Sarah."
The voice licked the edges of her name, twisted with familiarity, but layered in something sinister. "Don't!" Sarah shouted, pulling her children closer. The shadows lurked closer, darting over the floor in swaths of black, wrapping her legs with tendrils of ice. The temperature plunged. The TV sputtered back to life, flickering once more. The same smiling visage of the family friend grinned in the flickering light, yet his features began to melt and warp, the profound darkness behind him pulsating like a heartbeat. Then the lights buzzed rapidly, casting harsh flashes of white. In those milliseconds, she saw figures looming throughout the store. Faces, their mouths stretched in silent screams. Eyes where light once lived, now dimmed. "Run!" Sarah yelled, pushing them forward, her instincts at war with the macabre sights. They dodged between aisles, hearts racing, the shadows coiling tighter around them, pulling them into the depths of despair. But as they turned a corner, Sarah halted, breath hitching. The front door stood wide open, but it was no ordinary exit. They were not on the street, no comforting sounds of civilization, only an abyss of blackness beyond. It pulsed, breathing and alive. Is this gate to freedom or to something worse? The air recoiled as Sarah sensed the waiting dark stewing beneath the click of their heels. "Mom!" Emily cried once more as an unseen force gripped her shoulder, tearing at the fabric of her sanity.
They turned, and at the end of the aisle, shadows surged, forming one gigantic mass. And then it whispered, "You'll never leave, not without the story." What fate awaited them when the Keeper of Tales arose? Would they become yet another story, trapped forever in Oak Ridge Hollow's lore? The air thickened, pressing down as a choice seemed to hover over them, face the dark or succumb to its embrace. The shadows loomed closer, and Sarah steeled herself. The end had only begun to unfurl its shape. They stood, paralyzed by the encroaching terror. Sarah felt the cold sweat trickling down her back like icy fingers. The whispers intensified, swirling around her, entwining with her thoughts, each syllable dripping with malevolence. The shadows consolidated, forming a mass that seemed to breathe and pulse, an embodiment of dread. "Mom, I don't like this," Jake squeaked, his voice barely reaching beyond the fear that gripped him. Emily pressed her body against Sarah's leg, all wide eyes and trembling lips, desperate for comfort that even Sarah could not provide. "Stay behind me," Sarah ordered, the instinct to protect clamoring louder than the rising panic. She took an instinctive step back, glancing frantically at the void before them. The open doorway tempted her with the promise of freedom, while the unseen horror reverberated behind. "Don't be afraid." The whisper danced around them again, lighter this time, almost inviting. "Come and join us. The stories await." Just as Sarah took a half step back, the lights flickered again, and in the jarring illumination she spotted them. Figures trapped within the aisles, their faces twisted in perpetual agony. Their mouths moved silently, forming words she could not hear. Their eyes, dark and lifeless, seemed to plead for release. It crumbled her resolve. "Please, Mom," Jake cried, tugging at her sleeve with desperate strength. "Let's go." In a heart-stopping moment, the enormity of their uncertain escape bore down on her. The store's familiar layout, once mundane, morphed into a labyrinth of nightmares, each aisle woven with the fabric of horror that answered to the keeper's beckoning call. "Which way?" she gasped, her mind racing, frantically piecing together a plan. "We can't just stand here," Emily shouted, her voice wavering under the weight of fear. The shadows shifted, swirling like a dark storm. With new panic, Sarah grabbed her children, steering them towards the nearest aisle. Every instinct screamed to flee, but could they outrun the dark? As they pushed through the aisle, the air grew thick and suffocating, each step dragging them deeper into a nightmare. The rustling intensified, creeping closer as whispers crawled into her mind, hissing shaded truths. The murmurs surged, each one louder than the last. "You need to tell the story, or become part of it." "Mom, what do they want?" Jake sobbed, his grip tightening on her hand. "I don't know."
"Sarah!" shouted, anger boiling through the fear. "Just keep moving!" A sudden noise made her freeze. A hollow thud echoed from behind. The mass of shadows had shifted, spilling into the aisle like an amorphous tide, closing their escape. It surged and expanded, and amid the indistinct shapes she could make out gleaming eyes, avid for the story they craved. "Run!" she shrieked, breaking into a desperate sprint. The children followed, their footsteps hammering against the linoleum, echoing the beat of their terrified hearts. But as they fled, the floor beneath them began to tremble. An inexplicable force pulsed from behind, forcing her to stumble. She glanced back, catching sight of the swirling mass, its focus narrowing, locking on them like prey. Tell them your story, Sarah, or lose yourself forever. The voice became a cacophony of laughter and cries, wrapping around her like chains. Heart racing, Sarah narrowed her focus ahead, aiming for the distant light that flickered through the aisles. The shadows surged forward, nearly engulfing them. She screamed for her children to follow, but the air turned thicker. Then, a violent jolt pulled at her shirt. "No!" Sarah screeched as she spun, just in time to see Emily yanked backward, a dark tendril wrapping around her ankle. The darkness did not just claim her daughter, it was absorbing her light, consuming her essence. "Mommy!" Emily cried, reaching for her, fear filling the space between them. Sarah's heart shattered. She could not lose her. They had to get out. She lunged, grabbing Emily's hand, but the shadows twisted, threatening to pull her away. "Hold on!" Sarah screamed, digging her feet into the linoleum, determination surging despite the chilling weight of despair crashing upon her. Through the haze, a fake flicker caught Sarah's eye. The television in the corner, still flickering with static. A portal of sorts. Could it be their escape? But would it render them another tale to be consumed? "Mom!" Jake grasped her free hand, desperation echoing in his voice. Okay, on 3. She cupped their hands between her grip, adrenaline swarming through her veins. But the shadows hissed, seething with rage, inching closer. 3, 2, 1! With every ounce of strength they pulled together. The shadows lunged as her heart raced, but would it be enough to escape or seal their fate? What awaited them on the other side? Would they finally break free, or become part of the chilling folklore that haunted Oak Ridge Hollow? Time lost all meaning as they launched forward, light pulling them in as darkness clawed at their backs. The brilliant light flooded over them, wrapping around Sarah and her children like a warm embrace. For a fleeting moment, it felt like safety, like they had miraculously breached the barrier of terror. But the shadows clawed at their consciousness, howling in rage as they tried to drag back what was theirs. With a blinding pop, the world shifted.
They landed, crashing onto a polished wooden floor, breathless and disoriented. Groaning, Sarah pushed herself to her knees, heart still racing. Jake clung to her shoulder, his small body trembling, while Emily sat wide-eyed, staring at the surroundings. Where are we?" Jake whispered, his voice quaking with apprehension. Gradually, as her vision cleared, the room around them came into focus. They were in an old bookstore, sunlight filtering through dust-streaked windows. Shelves towered high, filled with books whose spines were cracked and faded. It smelled of parchment and leather, and an eerie quiet enveloped them, like the calm before a storm. Is this safe?" Emily's voice was barely above a whisper, and Sarah felt her heart sinking again. The unsettling silence spoke volumes, echoing their fears. But before she could respond, a cacophony of unsettling laughter echoed from the darkness of the aisles. It rippled across the room, chilling Sarah's blood. The laughter was haunting, mingling with soft whispers of indistinguishable voices. They felt like shadows creeping back to claim their lost stories. "Mom!" Jake yelled, eyes wide in horror. "They're here!" The laughter grew louder, turning into a symphony of madness as the pages of the books fluttered violently. Then came the whispering again, threading through the room. "Welcome to your story. Welcome to the tale, forever bound." "No!" Sarah shouted, scrambling toward the entrance. "We have to leave!" She pulled Jake and Emily to their feet, urgency igniting her movements. As they ran, the shadows merged and split again, forming a spectral mass, moving between the shelves like a fixed smoke determined to trap them once more. "Remember," a voice slithered out, echoing like a taunt. "Every story requires a sacrifice." Sarah felt her stomach drop, the meaning behind the words sinking in. She refused to let them take her children. Her life was worth fighting for. Theirs was worth everything. Dodging behind a shelf, Sarah caught her breath, pressing her back against the cool wood. "We need a plan," she murmured, her eyes darting around the room, desperately searching for something, anything that could help them. The shadows clawed at the ends of the aisles, condensing into a figure at the end, cloaked in darkness, eyes glowing like embers. "You can't escape. Your story has only begun." With her heart hammering in her chest, she narrowed her eyes. "What do you want?" she demanded, voice steadying as her instinct to protect surged through her. "Only what every storyteller desires." It stepped forward, gliding toward them with ghostly grace. "You must tell us your deepest fears, or become victims of them." The realization sunk in. Sharing their fears could be lethal, but not doing so could be worse.
Sarah's heart raced, clashing against the enigma of choice. What if revealing the truth let the darkness in more than it already had? We won't.
Jake cried defiantly, latching onto her hand. We have to, Sarah urged them, though fear rippled in her voice. If we fight back, maybe it can be defeated. With the lurking figure closing in, she knew they needed to buy time. She turned to her children, swallowing hard. Whatever happens, do not look away. Hold on to each other. As the shadow lunged, Sarah pushed her thoughts into words, stories unspooling from deep within her. I am afraid of losing you. Her breath hitched, but she forged on, desperate to empower them. Tell us more, the mask demanded, hungry for the release of fear. Jake's grip tightened. I'm scared of the dark. Emily, Sarah prompted, feeling the weight of their shared secrets. I'm scared of never seeing the sun again. Her voice trembled, but defiance flared within her. The figure paused, the shadows swirling with unease. Would this story be their salvation, or the end of the three of them, lost within the pages of darkness forever? Your fears are delicious, the entity crooned, revealing jagged teeth, but the tale has only just begun. And as their fears fed the shadows, Sarah understood. They had become part of the story, but how could they rewrite it? The knife edge of hope and despair wavered precariously. What would it take to reclaim their fate, and would they find the ending they sought, or the beginning of something far more sinister? Ears ringing with the echoes of their fears, Sarah felt a tremor course through her. The shadowy figure loomed closer, tendrils of darkness curling menacingly in her direction. She tightened her grip on her children, quelling panic. This was their nightmare, but she wouldn't let them endure it alone. Gather your thoughts, she urged, her heart thumping wildly. They had to think. Terror played hide-and-seek in her mind, each second stretching into an agonizing eternity. And then she saw it, an old leather-bound book perched oddly atop a shelf, as if waiting for the right moment to be discovered. That book, she pointed. It might help us. The figure hissed, its thin lips drawing back in something akin to fury. Not the stories you want to tell, only the fears you must expose. With a sudden jolt of courage, Sarah took a breath, the air thick with dust and despair. It can't be just our fears, she challenged. What if we talk about how we overcome them instead? The shadow paused, caught off guard. A flicker of something, confusion, crossed its gleaming eyes. Challenge us, at your own peril. Mom, hurry, Jake pleaded, trembling faster than before. You have to distract it. Emily, grab the book, Sarah shouted. Without hesitation, Emily raced toward the shelf, her small hands reaching up just as a shift of air skidded across the room. The sound of pages turning filled the silence, a lullaby too sweet for the darkness. Do not look, Sarah yelled, as she felt the shadows thickened, swirling legs of darkness trying to latch onto her children. Keep going. Emily's fingers brushed a spine. The book slipped from its resting place into her hands, dusty and ancient. A sense of discovery sparkled in her eyes, alongside fear. What do I do? Open it, Sarah urged, holding her breath, heart pounding like a drum. Find a light, anything that can help us. As the pages unfolded, the bookstore shivered. Words began to glow, emerging from the musty text and blossoming like starlight in the oppressive gloom. The laughter subsided, turning into a low, fearful whisper. I can't, Emily stammered, the pressure of the entity's presence nearly suffocating. Yes, you can! Just read! With a shaky breath, Emily began to speak the words, an incantation against the terror. Each syllable wrapped around them like strong arms pushing away darkness, the light flickering dimly in the shadow's heart. Light! Where is the light? The figure screeched, its body convulsing, desperately trying to resist. Keep going, Emily! Sarah shouted as her insides twisted with dread. The end was so unclear. Would the light repel the darkness? Would it work? But deep down, she felt a flurry of strength weaving its way through her. She was willing to fight, to barter, to protect her children. As Emily's voice steadied, the shadows recoiled, and something raw settled in the air. Sarah dared to hope. Each word became a weapon, each phrase a promise. But as the last syllable left Emily's lips, a deafening silence swallowed the room. The light dimmed instantaneously, shadows creeping back, more furious than before. We underestimated you, the figure hissed, and a chilling laugh erupted again. But every story has a twist.
Now we must test your resolve. Can you endure the true essence of your fears? The walls of the bookstore began to constrict, memories of haunting visions erupting in flashes, threatening to engulf them. Sarah's blood ran cold as snippets flickered, a vision of Jake lost in a maze, Emily trapped beneath endless books. This wasn't over. They had so much more to face. "Don't let go of each other," Sarah yelled, anchoring them against the encroaching tide. But could they really rise above this insidious darkness? Could their story be rewritten? As the weight of the shadows pressed in, the truth echoed louder. An ending was in sight, but it was lined with peril. What hidden fears still lay in wait to emerge? And just as the figure lunged forward, Sarah braced for what was to come. Had they won a small victory, or had they simply stirred something much worse lying in wait? The shadows enveloped them, a swirling vortex of despair that clung to Sarah's skin like a suffocating shroud. She could feel its icy fingers reaching for her children, hungry for fear, desperate for surrender. The warmth of hope she'd felt moments ago seeped away, leaving only a paralyzing chill. "Mom, I can't breathe," Jake whimpered, his small frame trembling against her. The vision of him lost in a maze flashed again in Sarah's mind. No.
She wouldn't let that happen. "Stay close, Jake. We're not giving up," she shouted, desperation coating her voice as she dug her nails into their hands, unwilling to let go. "Emily, keep reading. Find something else in the book. Anything," Sarah urged. Emily's face twisted with anguish. "But it's dark. I can't see." Panic laced her voice. The pages, once glowing with hope, now seemed to absorb every ounce of light within the store, turning them into a nightmarish abyss. "Then close your eyes and listen to my voice," Sarah instructed, forcing calmness into her tone, despite the terror constricting her throat. "Think of the light, the sun, the stars. Imagine the warmth." At that moment, the figure lunged forward, stretching its shadowy form, its eyes a bottomless void. "You are weak," it hissed, its breath a gust of icy dread. "You cannot fight what you fear most." Jake squeezed his eyes shut, shivering against Sarah. "I'm scared, Mom. Make it go away." The shadows consumed the walls, pulling them into a nightmarish spiral. She was losing them. This couldn't be the end. She had to channel the strength of 1,000 mothers. "Imagine a place you love," she commanded. "The park, the beach, anywhere. Focus on that light." The darkness growled, an echo of rage reverberating through the space. It was fighting back, stealing their thoughts, preying on their vulnerabilities. At last, Emily's eyes snapped open, determination flickering in their depths. "I'll try!" With a resolve born from survival, Emily flipped rapidly through the pages, her small fingers trembling as they stumbled upon an illustration. "Here, there's a drawing of a lantern!" "Read it," Sarah urged, chaining her hope to her daughter's words. As Emily recited the lines again, pale light began to seep from the pages, pushing back against the ravenous darkness. Each vowel echoed against the walls, reverberating into the shadowy corners, fueled by their fears, yet cloaked in courage. But the malevolent figure surged forward with renewed strength, laughter ringing hollow. "You fool! Light can only reveal your fears, not banish them." In an instant, memory swirled into view. Sarah saw herself, trembling as she lost a job, her home threatened, the fear of being alone drowned in a void. Jake's face twisted with the worry of losing his family. Emily faltered, her insecurity spilling out like unrelenting ink stains, a whirlpool of terror that wrapped around Sarah, clawing at her frail hope. Blood pounding in her ears, Sarah steeled herself. "No, we own our fears. They do not own us." The glow intensified, forming a barrier between them and the looming figure, yet doubt lingered, darkening the edges. Would it be enough? Did facing their fears mean to expose them, or rather, to embrace the strength found in vulnerability? As the shadows swirled ominously, a new voice, softer yet chilling, echoed throughout the bookstore. "What happens when you face them?" "When you take them to the very heart of your being?" Sarah's heart raced, but she held her children tighter, the warmth of their intertwined fingers grounding her. Clarity washed over her like an incoming tide. This was the moment where pain met resilience. With a surge of courage, she shouted, "We face them together! We choose love over fear!" A flash of blinding light burst forth, illuminating their surroundings, a primal scream erupting from a figure, its form shattering in the brightness. But just as they thought they were free, a final shadow ripped through, whispering, "You think you're safe, but it's only just begun. The real darkness is waiting." In that instant, the world shifted. Books flew off the shelves, their pages turning wildly, revealing a secret map flooded with unknown horrors leading deeper into the bookstore's malevolence. "Mom, what is happening?" Emily's voice trembled with uncertainty. "Keep your eyes open," Sarah shouted, as the very fabric of the store twisted, revealing a door that had never been there before, yet beckoned them to step inside. What lay beyond that threshold? Would it be salvation, or another layer of terror waiting to ensnare them? The door loomed ahead, warped and splintered, flickering in the strange dim light that seemed to pierce the oppressive darkness. It appeared to breathe, a soft quiver in its frame, inviting a sense of dread that twisted in Sarah's gut. She hesitated, her heart a frantic rhythm pounding against her ribs as every instinct screamed to turn back. "Mom, please," Jake's voice quivered, clinging to the edge of her shirt. Emily's grip tightened around her other hand, the child's determination faltering beneath the weight of impending doom. "It's okay, kids. We're going to find a way out," she whispered, though even she could hear the doubt laced in her own voice. What lay beyond that door could be worse than the darkness that surrounded them. But the rapid pulse of the shadows pushed her forward, an invisible force she couldn't resist. "On the count of 3, she said, steeling herself. 1, 2, 3. With a deep breath, she yanked the door open. The creaking sound echoed like a mournful wail, slicing through the silence. The air that rushed forth carried an unmistakable chill, thick and sweet with the scent of decay. As they stepped inside, the world shifted again, the air becoming thick and syrupy. Walls began to slither, shifting what was visible. The once calm shelves of books transformed into towering sentinels, whispering secrets that crawled into Sarah's mind, planting seeds of doubt. "Mom, I don't like this," Jake cried, glancing around as if the very walls were closing in. "Stay close," Sarah barked, panic dripping from each word. Suddenly, a distant laughter echoed through the chamber, high-pitched and disjointed, a cruel symphony of malice. It bounced off the walls, turning every direction and leaving echoes of laughter trapped inside. "Mom!" Emily shouted, her eyes wide with terror. "Make it stop!" "Focus on my voice, just like I told you." The ambience shifted again, revealing a path spread before them, a narrow corridor engulfed in shadows that writhed and danced, whispering dark promises. With shaky breaths, Sarah led her children down the path, pushing them onward into the unknown. Images flickered around them, shadows twisted into faces of fear, past regrets materializing in grotesque forms. Friends lost, moments wasted, the darkness reflecting their own haunting memories. "Sarah." A voice too familiar floated through the air, thick with sorrow. She turned, startled, and her heart dropped. There, flickering like a dying flame, stood the figure of her long-lost sister, Amelia. "Help me, please." "No, you're not real," Sarah gasped, her vision blurring as the memories crashed over her like icy waves. "Help me," the echo pleaded, the figure dissolving into a smog that wrapped around Sarah's legs, urging her to step back, to turn away. "Mom, don't listen to it," Jake yelled, his voice slicing through her chaos like a beacon in the storm. "Jake, Emily, hold on!" she screamed, then everything split apart. The corridor quivered, and cracks appeared in the walls like teeth ready to sink in. The air stank of despair, and the shadows seemed to hiss at each step they took. "Sarah, run!" Emily shrieked as spectral fingers reached for them, grabbing her ankle with cold iron hands that paralyzed her, threatening to drag her into the depths of despair. "Hold on to me!" Sarah shouted, yanking Emily back, but the ground trembled as the shadows surged, hungry and relentless. Then, from out of nowhere, a resonating crash echoed through the chaos. The corridor trembled beneath their feet, and the laughter twisted into rage, a deafening roar that threatened to rip apart the world around them. "Not yet! Not yet!" Sarah screamed into the darkness, holding tight to her children, battling the dark grip that sought to pull them deeper into madness. But just then, a blinding light shimmered through the cracks in the walls, slicing through the shadows like a knife. Would it guide them out or obliterate everything they had left? "Run!" Sarah shouted, the brightness intensifying, swallowing the darkness whole. As they bolted towards the luminescence, paradoxically, they could feel more shadows congealing behind them, gathering strength, more terrifying than before. "Get to the light!" she urged desperately, pulse racing, feet pounding against the ground as the darkness howled in fury. But was there even a way out? Or had they simply run deeper into a nightmare where the true horror lay waiting, unfurling its gnarled hand towards them? What if the worst was yet to come? The blinding light stretched broader, illuminating the corridor in an unnatural glow. Shadows recoiled, hissing and swirling as if stung by the brightness. Sarah felt an odd mix of hope and fear.
Could the light truly take them to safety, or was it merely a trap, a deceitful lure that would lead them to their final doom? "Go! Go!" she urged again, gripping her children's hands tightly. They sped toward the light, hearts pounding like frantic drums. With each stride, the walls around them creaked and moaned, as if alive and protesting their escape. "Mom, what if we leave the light behind?" Jake yelled, terror clear in his eyes. "We can't look back, Jake. Just keep running." Panic bubbled in her chest, raw and visceral. The shadows slashed at their heels, gnashing like wild animals hungry for a taste of flesh. The corridor began to widen, but as they neared the light, shadows crawled closer, reaching out like long, cold fingers. They were relentless. A twisted spine of darkness snaked over the ground, nearly tripping Emily. Sarah yanked her back, dread pooling in her stomach. "Move!" she shrieked, adrenaline surging through her veins. Ahead, the light pulsated, brightening and dimming like a heartbeat. It felt alive, almost mocking them. Was it a beacon of safety, or a siren song calling them deeper into despair? Then they burst through the last of the shadows, tumbling into a room flooded with white. For a moment they stood, stunned by the starkness that surrounded them. The room was barren, save a massive mirror that reflected their frightened faces. "Is this it?" Jake whispered, confusion etched in his features. "Are we safe?" But Sarah's instincts screamed otherwise. The edges of the mirror seemed to ripple, dark shadows swirling just underneath the surface. "Stay away from that," she warned, stepping back. The mirror felt wrong, a faint whisper tugging at the corners of her mind. She could see things flicker in it. Images, scenes from their past flickering like static on a television. "What is that?" Emily murmured, her little voice trembling. "It feels weird." A low laughter echoed from the depths of the mirror, deep and twisted. It echoed off the cold walls, setting chills racing along Sarah's spine. "Come and play," it beckoned, seductive and sinister. "Don't listen to it!" Sarah shouted, her voice raw. She turned, ready to bolt again, but the room shifted. The walls began to close in, the mirror expanding like a monstrous beast ready to swallow them whole. "No," she screamed, her hands shaking, eyes darting around, searching for an exit. "There has to be a way out." The laughter grew louder, muffling her thoughts. Shadows surged around the room, threatening to envelop them again. It was dark matter that held the fleeting hope of escape at bay. "Mom," Jake cried, terror spilling over into pleading. "We need to get out. We can't stay here." She backed away from the mirror, pulling her kids toward a doorway hidden in shadow. But the surface of the mirror distorted, showing them visions of pain, their happiest memories twisted into grotesque parodies. Sarah's heart wrenched in her chest. It was cruel. It was consuming.
"Do you want to see the truth?" The laughter echoed again, taunting. "Shut up!" she shouted, bile creeping up her throat. "We're not afraid of you!" With frantic strength, she yanked her children toward the door. The handle felt ancient, cold and slick, slipping from her grip. The laughter crescendoed, shadows swirling wildly as if mocking her attempt to escape. "Mom, it's pulling me!" Emily gasped, terror in her voice. "Don't let go!" Sarah cried, gripping her daughter's hand tighter. The world around them screamed with chaos as the mirror's whispers escalated. She pushed on the door again, her heart racing. If they didn't get through, they would be swallowed whole. The very air felt alive with the shadows that were closing in, hungry and desperate. Then, with a sudden surge of courage, she flung herself against the door, and it creaked open just enough for them to slip through. They stumbled into an unwelcoming darkness, the door slamming shut behind them. A wall of silence fell over them, the echo of laughter fading but lingering in the air. What now?" Jake's voice trembled, fear straining his words. "Something worse is out there. I can feel it," Sarah murmured.
But what lay ahead was still cloaked in shadows, the unknown stretching endlessly. And in the depths of that darkness, a chill slithered through her mind. Perhaps this nightmare wasn't over yet. They pressed forward, the darkness watching, waiting, a new horror stalking their every move, ready to reveal the truth of the shadows lurking just beyond sight. What if the true nightmare was about to begin?
Relief washed over Sarah, urging her forward, yet the shadows shifted. A wail erupted from the depths, rising to meet them. Sarah steeled her spine, pulling her children behind her. "We're going to move past it. Get ready." Her pulse raced, carrying a mix of hope and terror as they approached the light. As they stepped closer, the air shimmered, revealing a figure shrouded in the same shadows that had haunted them. It stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, her sister, Amelia. But something felt wrong. There was a grotesque twist to her smile, and her eyes were dark voids. "Sarah," her voice dripped with sweet poison. "Why do you resist? You can join me. You've always been afraid. I can help you escape this fear." Sarah burned with a mix of rage and sorrow. "You're not real. You are just a reflection of my doubts." "Am I? Or am I your truest self?" Amelia's laughter echoed, reverberating through the darkness as the shadows danced chaotically around them. "Stay away!" Jake screamed, clutching at Sarah's waist. Suddenly, a bone-chilling howl erupted behind them. The shadows surged, coiling together to form dark silhouettes, a chorus of anguished faces filling the corridor, victims of their own fears, echoing Sarah's deepest insecurities. "No!" Sarah cried, clenching her fists. But the path forward was uncertain, and as the dark figures loomed closer, they whispered words that sent ice through her veins. "You can't escape your story. It will consume you." "Keep moving," Sarah urged, pushing her children ahead, but their pace became stilted as they gripped her tighter. But she felt an ember of defiance spark deep inside her. "We control this story. Our fear doesn't define us." With renewed fire in her voice, she shouted, "I'm afraid of losing my family, of being enveloped by darkness, but I also believe in our love, our light." As her words erupted, a blinding light radiated from deep within her. It surged toward the silhouettes, illuminating their anguished expressions. The dark figures shrank back, hissing, "No, not the light!" "Together," Emily echoed, holding Jake's hand tightly. "We believe." They could feel the warmth growing. Courage leapt between them. Together they shouted, wrapping their voices around their fears, turning them into a tapestry of hope and spirit. The dark shadows recoiled as the light enveloped them, pushing back against the consuming darkness. "Keep going," Sarah urged, their united voices rising higher than the impending despair. The darkness hissed, swirling furiously, but unable to penetrate their steadfast bond. Suddenly, with a mighty eruption, the shadows retreated, sucked back into the void, revealing the door they had awaited, the portal to freedom, the oppressive weight lifting as hope flooded in, blinding yet soothing. With a final push, they surged toward the glowing threshold. Just as the darkness reached for them one last time, they leapt through, bursting into the brilliant light. They tumbled onto soft grass, laughter bubbling up as warmth and safety enveloped them. The familiar sounds of birds chirping and the gentle rustle of leaves accompanied their gasps of relief. "Are we safe?" Emily asked, looking around, awestruck. "Yes," Sarah exhaled, the weight of terror lifting from her shoulders. They were home, in Oak Ridge Hollow, safe beneath the soft glow of the November night, surrounded by the sweet scent of earth and comfort. Jake jumped in joy. "We did it, Mom! We faced it!" "Yes, we did, all of us." Sarah pulled them into a tight embrace, joy swelling as they clung to each other. Shadows couldn't take them now. They lived, breathed, and carried their stories forward, stronger than the darkness ever could be. And as they turned towards home, warmth replacing fear, Sarah whispered, "Truly, the stories we tell become light within us, trumping the dark." A single moonbeam broke through the trees, shimmering down, a reminder of their victory, their courage, their story rewritten, forever theirs. And in that moment of familial warmth, they embraced their new beginning, knowing together they could face anything. Now take a breath, let your own hope swell, and you need to subscribe now
Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. Did you see it coming? What are your thoughts? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling finale. This is the moment to show your support.